Me in here.
Yeah, it's all good, man. What are we looking at today?
So I've got a VOD where I versed in Akali. I feel like I played the lane really well,
hmm
but what I also did is I had several instances where I couldn't quite figure out what is the variable that I'm not accounting for. In both instances it was like a blitzcrank missing, but like it felt like I didn't have a lull state to get there. So I'm kind of trying to figure out how to approach when you're in kind of like the skirmish. How do you gather that information, or is that unreasonable? And then the other big question I had is recently got Plat 4, um, basically one tricking Viktor,
hmm
and I was planning on adding another champion, but now I kind of feel like I could get to Plat 2 with Viktor. Do I get more learning off of doing that, or is now the best time to add in another champion?
Hmm. It's a tough question. I mean, generally, because if you're a one tricking Victor, I think it is a good time to kind of expand from being a one trick. Um, yeah, I would probably urge you to be more on the side of expand now, um, rather than
Yeah,
later. Yeah,
and that's kind of what I was leaning. So, and
yeah.
that sounds great. Like that sounds like a fun way to do it. Um, so I guess then my question is kind of piggybacking off your discussion here
hmm
in the last one. Echo seems fun to me. Oriana seems very similar, and I definitely like could pick her up, but she's not quite as engaging. And the other one that was on my mind was Zed, because I feel like their poke patterns are similar, and then Zed just has an all-in like package that happens after that. So it seems interesting and fun, but they are, very different with those assassins versus the control mage.
Mm.
Do I just go towards the Ori, or is there another mage? I've also been playing a bit of Annie, just like maybe like 10% of the time, just because she's an easy if Victor gets banned or whatever. But
Okay, so number one, you don't want to play a champ that's too similar to Victor. There's no point having Ori and Victor in a pool because they're basically the same champion,
okay,
right?
yeah, yeah,
So that's done.
yep.
Annie, not worth it because it's not a reliable champ to have in your pool in the long run. Also, on top of that, yes, there are like what I would call more hybrid assassins, right? Like champions that are kind of a cross between the traditional assassin. Like the hardcore assassins are things like Kiana, Fizz, even like Akali to a certain extent. And then you have kind of like a crossovers. Like you have things like Ari, you have Vex. Zed is like kind of in here because Zed plays lane like a mage. He just plays post
Yeah.
six like an assassin. Um, so then you've
So
kind of
that
got
sounds
those ones,
great.
and like LeBlanc as well is kind of like a combination of a mage plus like a hybrid mix. I would recommend more going here rather than going here because this is a big,
Sorry.
big, big jump.
Give me 2 seconds here. Okay, yep, I'm seeing it now.
So I
Um,
would recommend, yeah. So I would recommend dabbling in playing around with champs. Like I would recommend
ooh,
experimenting with Zed, Ari, Vex, LeBlanc, Akshan, and they're the main ones off the top of my head that I would. Echo. They're the main ones that I would play around with off the top of my head.
and when I'm playing around with it, am I looking for this feels like I'm going to be successful, or am I looking for just this feels like it's gonna be the most fun, and
Spot
therefore I'll
on.
put in the most time?
Fun,
That one?
all
Okay.
fun.
Yeah, that's what I was meaning. Okay.
You're looking for fun, yeah, and because any of these can work, any of these
Yeah,
can work. It's more about what you find genuinely your combination of what gives you the most satisfaction and what's the most fun, and then we can go down that rabbit hole.
perfect. Okay. Well, I will check out some of those, and that would not be in ranked. I should do that in like
Yep,
flex or
that's just
secondary.
norms or vex. I
Got
mean
it.
norms or flex, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. I'll take a look on there in
Oh,
a month
and
or two. I'll get
Silas
back
is
to you.
another one. Sorry, Silas is another one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Okay.
You think like 10 games apiece on those? Sorry.
I wouldn't give it a set number. I think just go with what you feel
Mm.
necessary. I think some of them you'll know in a game or two, like fuck that, I'm like, I don't want to play that. And then others
Yeah,
you're like, And then others like you think, oh, this is interesting, and then you kind of maybe do a bit of more investigation. You might maybe watch You
Dope.
might go on YouTube, watch a few games, or go on the MLA, watch a VOD or two, a coaching session with those champs. Might want to do a bit more investigation. I think you'll find it quite easily to like cull a few of them, and then pick. There'll be like
Yeah,
three left, and then that's where you're gonna have to really, put a little bit more thought into it.
perfect. All right, I'll get back to you on that. Thank you.
So in this game, by the way, this is probably up there with one of Victor's hardest matchups.
Yeah,
A lot of people in the MLA struggle with this matchup in particular. And I think it's borderline worth a ban because one overstep, one misstep, and you're just dead. So I think it's, first of all, very normal that if you're struggling in this sort of matchup. So keep that in mind.
definitely. And I'm banning Zed because he feels similarly just very hard to deal
Mhm.
with. Do you think the Akali ban's a better ban?
Um, Look, personally, I think Zed is way easier to deal with than Akali.
Okay, I'll
Um,
experiment there then.
but that's it. Really does come down to preference and the quality of players. I think Zed is easier to execute than Akali in a way. But
Mm,
ultimately, I think Akali's worse because at least Akali wins and scales so goddamn well. But the Zed player
yeah,
has to be really good to scale. Like, there's not many good Zed players that like scale well. Like whereas Akali, you don't really have to have a brain to scale. Like once you get Rocket Belt or like Riftmaker, you just spam buttons. Honestly, you're fine.
yeah, I see what you're saying there.
So I think Akali's probably a little bit more nasty. If you can get a hang of the trading patterns into Z and avoid that WEQ, you'll be
Yeah.
rock and rolling.
All right, sweet.
Out of interest, what do you go secondary? You go Taste of Blood and what?
It is Taste of Blood, and I believe it's the like Ravenous Hunter,
Right.
the other heal.
That they removed
Oh no
that
no no
one.
no no, it's not. It's sorry, it's the treasure chest to
Oh,
get
okay.
the extra gold.
Yeah.
Because
So.
like I
Mm,
I feel like if I can get one assist or one kill within the first like 12 minutes of the game, if I just do one thing, then I get the 25 stacks and I get another huge chunk of gold, and it's like, okay, now I can just
mm,
chill and I'm
mm.
golden.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it. I'm not a big fan of it though. I mean, I think inspiration is just or resolve is just way more reliable.
For sure.
Um, I think Taste of
Yeah, I
Blood is kind of
definitely run into.
unnecessary.
Yeah, because like you're not gonna heal. Like it's like if she's gonna kill you, she's gonna kill you.
Yeah,
You're not getting enough health.
yeah.
Yeah.
Something to play around with, I guess, but it's preference. I tend to just go, I'd probably in a more scaling oriented matchup like this, I'd probably just go Biscuits Cosmic or Biscuits Stopwatch or Biscuits Boots or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, for
All right.
sure.
Anyway, so I like what you've done with the early wave. I like this wave state, right? I love holding it in the middle, keeping a very neutral position, keeping yourself nice and safe, getting poked down whenever you can, procking that mana flow. I don't mind this. I've noticed, whenever an Akali goes Doran Shield, there's really not too much you can do from a play.
Yeah.
Like you can harass and you can make her life. Like I don't know if you probably heard me talk about this because I think I did a lot of this exact
Yeah, last week in
review.
gold you had a ton, and I was like watching it through the lens of like, oh yeah, I just did this one and I have questions too.
Yeah.
And like I feel like I did the right things with like the wave state and
Mm.
the like the bullying. I think
Yeah.
I spent a little bit too much mana. I don't like where my mana is right now.
Yep.
And I don't like that I don't have W because maybe I could have saved her. But at the same time it's like
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know, I didn't
fine.
see that
Yeah,
coming, so yeah,
that's
I'm not
fine.
too.
And like I said, the mindset you got to adopt here is, I'm not gonna. It's like I'm not gonna kill the Akali, but I'm just gonna
Oh
make
yeah,
it difficult for her to farm. Right? That's the goal. Like trying to
right.
overwhelm her mental stack a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
The eye track is so cool.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. Like, because I was reviewing it, I'm like when I'm looking for the what did I miss? I'm like, well, I didn't look at my mini map at all within this time period, but like I don't know when I would.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what you see there.
I think it's a bit of a waste of a ward. We know Warwick's gonna be bot side for a while, so I don't think you really need that ward for
Do
a
I just like
while.
hold on the two wards? Because like I feel like I can never really work. So it's like I like that she's letting me just keep the
Mm.
wave on my side here, but then like do I just never ward? Because like that also feels weird.
I would just hold off a little bit. Hold off. Hold off for like because you could probably get the same ward in like another 20, 30 seconds.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
Okay, so we're getting quite. Do you go tier this game?
I do not know.
This game, by the way, I would 110% go like Leandri's.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I don't remember what I went, but
Because you're not going to burst a lot of the members on their team anyway, and you've got an AP jungle, so Luden Sorks feels way worse. And
yeah.
a lot of them are tanky. Sion, Warwick, Blitzcrank, even Akali can be quite. I mean, you're not going to burst Akali, a lot of like mobility. So I really like going Leandri's in a situation like this. So I would actually go for an early tier base in this matchup. Come back, start stacking my tier nice and early, and then I would go for Leandri's.
So at this point, the Akali has done just like absolutely nothing. She's
Yep.
just okay with like let's just farm together.
Yep.
So I'm kind of figuring like, I don't really need mana right now. Like if she's gonna let me just keep on thinning this wave and keep it exactly right here, I can stay for until at that 1300. Is that a bad hypothesis or what do you think there?
I think it's fine if you're not going tier. If you're going tier, then I don't think it's good.
Yeah. Probably a little bit too much respect for her ult there, but maybe not. Yeah, actually.
Yeah, I mean that's what Akali's going to do every single game, right? Especially when they
Yep.
go ignite, they're going to press R and then they're going to go for the solo kill. So
Right.
to be honest, as soon as Akali hits 6, you see me say this time and time and time again. You don't really want to give her an R angle like this.
What do
Um,
you mean by an R angle like that?
just you don't really unless she's like low or use her abilities on the wave, you don't want to get in R range. So generally what my mindset is, and I'm keeping an eye on what ability she's used and how much energy she has. So in this situation,
Ah,
she hasn't used her shroud in a very long time, so her shroud's going to be up, right? And she walks
yeah.
back and she has enough energy to cast her main abilities. So here, because she has everything, there's actually a kill threat. But if you were to back off here and keep your range with your E, right, instead of walking up like
Yeah.
this, which gets her into R range, if you were to actually just max range tether with the E, at some
Yeah.
point she's going to have to use her Q on the wave. Once she uses her Q on the wave here, she's going to go down to 0 energy. Then she
Yeah.
pops her shroud, and then if she R's, she won't have enough damage to kill you.
Got it. Okay, cool, cool.
So you got to keep an eye on how much energy he has, and that's why also post 6, um, yeah, I just like to hold the wave on my side or like in the middle and just keep an eye on her ability usage. Because remember, Akali's weakness. I mean, you might think, oh, she doesn't have mana, so she can do whatever she wants. Well, not really, because her energy costs are really high. She can't spam abilities.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense because like her Q does cost so
Costs a
much. So it's like
lot.
she, yeah.
And that's why the advice I always give to people when they struggle with the matchup is play the goddamn champion. Like,
Yeah.
play Akali or watch Akali VODs. You go into
Yeah.
your first game of ever playing Akali, you press Q on the wave and be like, oh, there goes my energy. And it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So now you're in a sticky situation though, because you've got a scaling jungler that's behind, you've got no flash into an Akali. I mean,
Yeah.
this is where it's gonna get rough, and that's why I said I like the tiers. Like I'm just gonna all in on the scaling game.
Yeah, for sure. And I think
Like,
I have an issue with like like so
mm,
in my mind for some reason if it's an assassin that defaults to they are not scaling, which is like nonsensical and doesn't make any sense. But like as you're saying,
no,
it, I'm like, oh yeah, so like she scales, and like when you said that, it totally made sense. But so I need to like rethink about when I versing a champion. It's like don't just like go to that quick, easy rule that I've kind
mm,
of forced in
mm,
there, and instead think like, do they scale? Because like if I can answer
mm.
that question honestly and not just like assume, that'll help me a lot.
Yeah,
Because knowing
yeah,
that she scales, it's like, oh yeah, I'd totally do this differently.
yeah, exactly. It shapes your decisions, 100%. Yeah. And just a little side note here, take a look at it. Notice how she used Q on the wave twice? Look at her energy.
Mm,
You don't need to be
yeah.
afraid to, like, just Q auto her there.
Oh my God. I need to just play her a little bit.
Yeah. Because her
Two birds,
energy's
one
low.
stone.
Or at least you would force her shroud instantaneously. But then you're so close to the
Yeah.
tower anyway, it shouldn't matter. Right? So just keep an eye on that ability usage.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, Yeah, so I like holistically, by the way, you've kind of gone for the mega like conservative style into Akali. Now that can work, right? But you got to remember, you're just doing a handshake agreement with Akali, saying, "Okay, you scale, but I kind of scale, and then we're gonna see who can kind of play mid game better." I
Yeah.
look, if it's kind of hard this game because you have such a shit mid jungle 2v2. Like you have like
Yeah.
Evelyn Victor, like no CC, no setup,
Uh-huh.
scaling. Like you got no pressure, and they have a Warwick, right? So it's very difficult for you to really pressure the Akali. But let's say we flip the junglers. Let's say you had Warwick and they had Evelyn. I wouldn't
Mhm.
play the waves like you did.
Yeah, and I think like again, like it comes back to like how I thought of Akali as a champion.
Right.
Like if Akali is instead uh what what's a good like a non-scaling assassin?
Non-scaling assassin.
Like would Pike be a good example there?
I mean, I don't I don't think there is I don't think there is assassin that deck doesn't scale. Like they all kind. It
Oh
depends
wow.
on the comp. Like I mean, a Zed can scale really well if it's a good Zed game.
See,
So
what I figured is
yeah.
like Victor does scale, and so like I always feel like if I beat the assassin in the early game, if I just go even with them, then it always just feels better to me. But so like what I'm trying to say is like like the Akali, I was playing it as if they don't scale at all, and so all I need to do is
Mm,
play like not to value my life, not allow her to ever kill me, and then I win because that's how like that's with my small sample size
that's
how it's
actually
felt in the past.
completely like opposite to how I view Victor. By the way,
Wow. Okay.
so I don't even
Good to
think
know.
Victor scales that well. So again,
Interesting.
remember, a champion's ability to scale is completely dependent on the comp that they're in.
Mm,
So there are games where Zed would scale better than Victor by far. There are games where a Kiana will scale better than Victor in terms of effectiveness by far. There is no like it's hard to like when it comes to these champs unless we're talking about the hyper scalers like the Cassidon, like the Kale, like the Vlad, like unless we're talking about like these hyper scalers, scaling it's not. Yeah, I just don't see like I don't ever play Victor thinking yes I scale. Most of the time when I play Victor, it's actually the other way around. Like most of the time when I play Victor, unless I'm versing a mega low threat comp and I get to go Leandries and tier,
yeah.
that's when Victor scales insanely well. So there's two situations where Victor scales well: when he's sole AP and when you are versing low threat. In both of these situations, let's say one, like I have this, but I don't have. Say I have this, but I don't have this. I'm gonna still scale okay. If I have this and I don't have this, I'm still gonna scale okay. If I have both, it's fucking. It's like that's like a really good Victor game, right?
Yeah.
So in this game, you're versing threat and you're not the sole AP. You don't even scale that well this game, especially since you didn't go Leandri's tier.
Right. Yeah, so like I need to stop thinking about it like as a static
It's not static, yeah, at all.
value, yeah, relative to the champion. It's more about like the composition that it's in and the scenario that it's in is what
Spot
the
on.
scaling is. Okay,
Right, and
cool.
so Zed, if Zed is the sole aid, he say he's in like he's got like a Karthus jungle, and then like a brand support, or maybe something like that. Like he has a lot of AP on his team, or like a Ziggs bot lane with a Karthus jungle, and he's playing Zed, and he's got lethality, and he's versing a squishy team. That Zed is going to scale so insanely well. Nothing, if he gets a hit, nothing will shut him down.
Right.
Right? And there's certain boxes
Yeah.
that you can tick. He's versing low CC, and he's got heavy AP on his team. Great Zed game. No matter what happens, if you farm well, you're going to scale. So you got to find the variables that need to be ticked in order for it to be a good scaling game with your champion.
Yeah.
So that's why I said if you're in this game, if I had the Warwick and they had the Evelyn, right? if I had a choice, knowing that I don't really want to handshake scale with an Akali,
Right.
if I can pressure Akali to the max of my ability, I will. And what does that look like? Well, again, same thing. Maybe a little bit faster, right? Rather than keeping the wave in the middle, I'll try and get the minion advantage and stack waves into the Akali and harass under tower if I can.
Mm.
Pre-6. You can do that into Akali pre-6. The only reason I said it's kind of okay this game is because you're versing a Warwick and you have an Evelyn.
Right, because like this game is a little bit too risky to do that because the Evelyn is so low threat and our
Yeah,
2v2
definitely.
is just garbage.
Yeah, and Warwick just has a lot of threat onto you. So that's why this game is so hard. It's a hard game. It's a hard game for
Oh,
that
for
reason.
sure.
Alright, so it turns into a little bit of a fiesta. Your bot lane roam up, Ashe dies, but you do end up getting the kill. Holy shit, this Warwick's everywhere, man.
Yeah, he was a monster this game.
Holy moly. Alright, so yeah, look, at the end of the day, you know, the best, and you go Everfrost this game, do you? Or do you go Crown or something?
Going Crown to
Hmm.
survive against the Akali early. Because again, like my hypothesis was just I need to not die at all costs, and if I get to the late game, I win, which is wrong, and I'm like
Right,
understanding that
right,
now. But at the moment, that's where
right.
that's
Well,
coming from.
Crown, by the way, is not even good into Akali, by the way.
Why is it bad? Is it good into other assassins, or is it just
Well, think about how you die to Akali. Do you randomly get one shot by Akali instantly? Like, is it like a Fizz R?
no? It's like a little bit more
What is it?
extended.
So what
So
happens? Akali then R
you get hit by
ones,
a bit, yeah.
and then she like shrouds and Qs you, and then she'll like continue to kill you in R2. The burst is on the
Right, so
back
it's too
end.
much
So
time.
what
Ah,
happens is that
okay.
she's gonna R1, proc your crown, then she's gonna sit in her shroud, wait for the crown to dissipate, then use the rest of her abilities.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it actually does nothing into Akali. So all this is actually going to do is ruin your ability to scale. You're not going to scale with
Right.
crown into this game in this game at all. There's a lot of little pieces of information, but it just makes it just makes a lot of difference.
Oh, for sure.
All right, well that's a gift from the gods. 400 gold shutdown, massive.
Yeah, I was feeling good about it until, and this was the first one where it's just like I'm like, where
Right,
should I have? Because like I'm just like
right.
going because it's
When
like
do
this is
you?
great.
You're basically asking when do I process this information?
And if right, like because like if that's not a skill I need to even worry about
Mm,
in
mm,
plat, then
mm.
like I'm fine with like being like I that's not a skill I need quite yet. There's other
Right.
things I can work on, but if that's something that I should have hit, that's just why I wanted to have the review and just see what you thought. Because
Yeah. So support tracking is something that look, it's a skill, but it's not necessary yet. Um, in
yeah,
this case specifically, the one little tip I would give you is okay. You know when okay, if you're say you're in lane, right? Let's go
mhm,
back here. Let's say you're in lane and your team and say your jungler, let's pretend this girl, you and Ashe, what was the Evelyn, right? And the Evelyn was coming to gank the Eve. Okay? As soon as that Evelyn shows and tries to gank the Akali, sorry, tries to gank the Akali, generally we start to think to ourselves, where's Warwick? Like, can he be here? Is he going to be here? Because we know as soon as
yeah,
Evelyn shows, Warwick is likely probably going to be beelining his way here or potentially in the area and to come respond, right? And we know this as a mid
yeah.
laner. We always, I mean, I'm assuming you would think this, right? Am I correct in saying that?
No, but that's a hugely easier way to do it than what I've been doing, so I'm gonna steal that. That's amazing.
Well, it's like if my jungler is ganking here and I don't have
Yeah,
information on their jungler,
no,
chances
that
are their
totally
jungler
makes
is going to
sense.
could be here very soon. because
Yeah.
it's like, well, this is an easy counter, potentially a counter, right? So whenever I'm in this
Right.
situation, that's why I'm always thinking, fuck, this player's got to be fast, because if it's not fast, the enemy's going to come counter it, right? So
Yeah.
in this situation further on, the tide turns into a shit show, whatever. Galio, your support comes.
Yeah, like right here, it's like, okay, so like Evelyn is going after Warwick,
Yep,
Akali's here, what can
yep,
go wrong is what I like have to
right.
think instead of just being like, this is free, which is what my
Well,
brain
I
is
don't think
doing, which
what can go wrong is the right way. So she's just going to be adaptable. It's okay. It's a 2v2,
mm,
and
mm,
then Galio Ours. So it's hard for us to know that he's going to do that. But now
mm.
that the support's here, if our support's here, where's their support? Right? That's
Yeah.
just a really
Yeah.
quick way
Yeah.
to do it. It's
That's so
like,
much easier. Yeah, no, I love that.
and that's the exact same in like traditional sport, right? Like if you're two manning someone, right? You're
Yeah.
trying to. It's like, where the fuck's the other guy? Like, where's he going to be? What's he
Right.
doing? You got to think about that. So I don't. I will be honest. I don't track support. I wouldn't be tracking support in this situation, but I'd be
No.
using that as like a little bit of a toolkit to kind of gauge. Like I'd be at least suspicious. Like where the hell is Blitz? If Galio's here, where the hell is Blitz? At least be wary.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. And like like it's just so easy. It's just, like you talk about that sign, right? Like when you're in lane,
Hmm.
like, oh, I don't have any corrupting pots, so that's how I need to know to
Hmm.
base. But here the sign is, oh, my Galio's here, so like think about their support, right? That's all you need to do.
Yeah,
But
that's what you need to do. Yeah, that's at least what I do, and I do that with junglers. I do it with supports. I do it with tops. Like if my
yeah,
top's
no, that's
ganking
great.
mid, where the hell's their top? I do it with
Mm,
everyone. Like I use it because it's like it's kind of just like a really it's just a neat little
it's
tool.
just balance.
Yeah, where and then just raise awareness towards it. It's a good tip. Um. Okay. So look, at the end of the day, if I'm in your shoes right now, I don't really know how you're gonna win, right? But at least I know what I don't want, right? I don't want to be caught out in open spaces by the Akali. I know that I
Mm,
probably need to be very careful because as they have a lot of threat, like Warwick can jump on me, Akali can get onto me, Blitzcrank obviously has hooks and things like that. So obviously I want to be
mm.
quite careful. Um, this is a very sketchy fight with your Evelyn on the Rift.
Yeah, and like I'm not accounting for their support at all, which is like a big problem throughout this game. But it felt good because I was like, okay, so I've got a collie on me, but Galio's close enough that he can get to me,
Hmm.
and he's between me and her, so like I felt pretty safe doing it. But again, I need to like do better with like thinking about Warwick is very ahead, so I need to worry about this.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, threat is all it's relative to how fed someone is, right?
Mm.
Like a 0-2 Samira is not threatening, but a 5-0 Samira is threatening.
Yes.
So this was actually a very good heads up play. I mean, you saw that they were diving bot. Very nice instant TP, good camera panning, good awareness.
Thanks. Yeah.
I like it.
This felt really good. And then coming up here is the second and the kind of the last, and we can end review after that. But like, so what was my sign here? Like I know what the sign is like, right? It's like, okay, so clearly he is
Yeah,
baiting me. Like
yeah,
that is
yeah,
so goddamn and we've had this before where we
yeah.
like talked about like the alligator, right? It's just like
Yep.
they just do. And like I felt that, but the like again, I felt like what the problem was is I'm like, well, I didn't have any lull state to like really think about it. I've been chasing this fucker all the way from bots. Like, what do I do now?
Well,
And
who's the other person in the fight? You, right?
yeah, yeah. So it's me versus a 10 health Blitzcrank. This seems great,
But
right?
but
But
but like let's like keep it really simple, right?
yeah,
Mid
yeah.
laner support. Where's our support? Here.
Not there, yeah.
Where's their mid? We
Who
don't know,
knows? I haven't looked in three
right?
minutes.
So like keep
Yeah.
it that simple. Let's just assume, right, for the sake of staying healthy and staying safe, that she's here. I don't think Blitz would be doing this otherwise.
No, yeah. So I guess like and like kind of the dumb way to put it is like how can I be less dumb about it because I knew
Mm.
that, and like in the review I'm like, okay, well I knew that this didn't feel right, but like my brain wouldn't like do the thing because I'm like
Yeah.
chasing him through the woods, and then I'm like, okay, like
Yeah.
it didn't do the thing. And like I feel like I've gotten a lot better with those
Mm.
lull states, but I'm at a loss for like how I force it in when my brain's in the like we are fighting mode. Like how do I
Mm.
like force myself to exit the we are fighting and get into the hey, think about this before you make a dumb
Okay,
mistake like that.
there's three things that I'll allude to here to help you with this. We'll talk about three concepts. We're going to talk about lull states. We're going to talk about incremental threat assessment, and we're going to talk about valuing your life. Okay, so number one, every moment in a game, right, is the culmination of the information you've processed up until that point. And we know that to be true because if someone is to show you a VOD of a moment, it takes you like a minute or two just to be like, what the fuck is going on, right? Like, who's fed? Where am I? Right? It's very confusing, isn't it? If you just get
Yeah.
sent a VOD halfway, it's like, what the hell's going on? And that's why, we have to look at a VOD rather than looking straight at mid game. We have to look at the context of the game up until that point. So whenever a play happens, right, we have to understand that like that's been the build up of many things that have happened up until that point. So if you die to something or you choose to make a decision, whatever it might be, we've processed variables incrementally throughout this game, right? Like, a person has been getting another kill. They got another kill, so that we know this person has been incrementally more and more fed. We know this person has been dying a lot, so we know this person is getting incrementally weaker. This is all information that we're keeping kind of in the back of our mind as we play the game, right?
Mm,
And the more often you use your lull states and the more information you can process in your lull states and kind of keep in that, like, I guess, in the back of your mind intuitively, the more accurate your decisions are going to be, or like the information you're using to make decisions is going to be more accurate. Therefore, you make better quality decisions. So lull state usage is very important. So that's why calibration, to calibrate, like who's fed, who's weak, what's going on, that's very important to do because it's when it's those split second decisions, when it's all intuition, it's going to grab onto whatever information that was nearest in your, or the most recent in your brain, right? So that's very important. Number two, threat assessment is, obviously it's a long-term process. We need to refine our intuitive threat assessment over the course of a lot of painful experiences. And when you die to something, I always view it in like a long-term lens. It's like, oh, now I know what that champion kind of does, what their damage output is. And especially when I really look over it a few times and I get honest with myself and look at what variable specifically is I didn't like factor in, it's really useful for me to do that. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then I incrementally understand how much threat champions impose onto me. So this is, again, a long-term mechanism or a long-term function that we're always going to be seemingly improving upon over time. Okay, so whenever I die to something, okay, great. Now I know that that's intuitively, that's going to be embedded in my muscle memory. And so when you die to something,
yeah,
we've got to
okay.
realize that. And then also number three, this has been a big thing that I've been pushing in the MLA recently, which is the importance of valuing one's life. What I've noticed with the certain clients is that they play with this blasé fashion where it's kind of like they're okay with dying. And when I play certain champions, especially champions that have low mobility and like low CC, like a lot of mages, I tend to over-index on valuing my life. Like, I walk around knowing I have a target on my back. And I understand the significance of dying. I know how important it is to just stay alive. And how significant one death may be. And so, I know I'm like a dead man walking in a way. But I don't do this in a very scared way. I'm not scared. I'm aware. I'm aware. And I
Yeah.
and I know that everyone wants to kill me, and I know that I need to stay alive. And if this is embedded as like a mindset, right, then I'm gonna always be intuitively using my lull states, checking the minimap, and doing what I need to do to stay alive. And one of the things that I do, especially when I'm playing in mobile mages, and I know that in the loading screen, right, this ties into loading screen usage up here, I know that I'm under a lot of threat, and I've identified that, I will sometimes step back in my lane for a second, even at the expense of a range creep or whatever it might be, or a potential trade, just so I can calibrate and be like, where is everyone? How can I, like, what's going on? Just so I can really make sure that I don't die. And I do that a lot, in especially the harder matches where I know that I'm under a lot of threat. So I think with you, those decisions are a culmination of all three. All three. I don't think you really used the lull states to identify that Blitz had a lot of threat onto you and Warwick was really fed. I don't think your threat assessment in general versus Blitzcrank and Warwick and Akali is even really that good. You don't understand specifics about Akali that we identified today. Right? Akali specifics.
I think with that piece, like I hit a huge epiphany when you were talking about the threat assessment, which is like, so if you were to ask me like a textbook question, right, which is just like, hey, what happens if you stand within Blitz's Q range and Blitz and someone who can kill you is there? I'd be like, oh, well, I would die to that, right? Because and I know that, and so like my brain's like, hey, so you have that threat assessment because you know that answer.
That's right.
But that's not really what threat assessment is, because every single time I've died to that, I've been like, well, that was dumb. I'm dumb for doing that, and like let's move on. But what I need to actually do is like have that painful experience and be like, hey, like think about this in a like more like
Like that's not okay type thing.
emotional way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like internalize it,
Yep.
because like I know the like the textbook knowledge of it, but I need to know the emotional side of it. Like you can't do this because like that's your life, which goes back to the valuing your
Yeah.
life thing.
Spot on.
Yeah.
View it as like a real life experience. When
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
touch a hot pan, hot pot for the first time, you don't do that again, do you?
Right,
Because it
because you like
fucking
literally have
sucks.
the yeah.
You have a physical, painful experience. The problem with League is that we don't have that physical element of it, right?
Oh my God, how many times do you walk into fire in a video game because you're like, well,
Right.
like it's fine, it
It's
doesn't
just
matter. And it's like,
exactly.
well, it needs to if you want to get better at
If you
it.
want to get better at a game like League and at most of these situations, you got to register the painful experience that
Yeah,
this is
yeah, yeah.
not okay. And then that's why when I get I actually have a physiological response when
Yeah.
Blitzcrank walks at me. Like it's that embedded. Like I am on edge. Like I know that like my body and my mind are connected, right? Like I know that
Yeah.
I'm under a lot of threat. And the deeper you can register this, the more meaningful the change will be. Hence why I always say, by the way, um, in League, the players that care, like a big part of climbing, like especially the people that want to get like pro, like
Yeah.
they care a lot about mistakes. Not because like the mistake is necessarily that big, but they just care about it in a very deep emotional way. Like they're
Yeah.
able to register the painful experiences better than other people. They can't fathom that they can make that mistake again. Some people are better at that than others.
No, for sure. That totally makes sense. And I can see it. It's just like again, I was confusing the two, the textbook knowledge and the
Yeah.
but no, that's huge. So like this has been hugely eye-opening. I'm super excited
Well,
to
that's a long. And
get in
remember,
and
this
kind of
that's
use
why
that.
threat assessment is intuitive. It has to be intuitive, but your intuitive response needs to be appropriate to the amount of threat that's actually imposed onto you. So yeah, it
Like it
seems
can't use the mental stack with it. Like it
no.
just has to like be second nature
That's
because
right.
yeah.
You can't think in that situation. You do.
Right.
Right? You don't think when you're stepping away from like in something around you in real life. You don't have time to think when a car's coming at you on the wrong side of the road. You fucking swerve and you just use muscle memory and intuition to get the fuck out of the way because you know how dangerous it is.
Yeah.
Right? That's why I actually said my hypothesis. I don't know if this is fucking ridiculous to say, but imagine if like having a car crash, there were no consequences. Like for some reason, everyone was made out of like silicon, and like the cars
Yeah.
wouldn't get damaged, and there was zero chance of getting injured. Imagine how many car crashes there would be.
Yeah,
because
there
people
wouldn't
don't.
be a single law about it.
Right,
No one cared.
exactly. People would give a fuck. Like people would, because they don't need to direct attention towards it. You know,
Yeah.
something to keep in mind.
No, that awesome. Well, super appreciative, man. Sorry this kind
Yeah,
of
no
went a little
problem.
bit long. I super helpful. I super appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure, dude. Thank you for stopping by.